Hello all. So today we're going to go over the basics of connecting Arduino via a serial connection to a P5 sketch. So the first thing that we're going to need is an Arduino. And so here I've just made a very simple setup. I'll zoom in, and it's a very simple setup using a photoresistor, a pull down resistor, which is bringing the same side of our circuit that's connected to A0 down to ground, unless there's any current any voltage coming through our photoresistor, which is on its other leg connected to 5 volts. So that's all we need to have a very simple proof of concept for our Arduino circuit. And so let's just take care of what's going on with the Arduino first. So I'll open up the Arduino IDE, and now we can get started. So for this, we just need to use a very simple example. So I'll go to New, File, Examples, Basics, Analog Read Serial. And so all this sketch is going to do is take the analog reading from our A0 pin, which is now connected to our photoresistor, and it's going to print it to our serial connection at a 9600 baud rate. So I'll just upload that onto my board, making sure I have all of my ports and board selected properly. And now if I go to the serial monitor, I can see some data. And so let me just switch my camera around. So now if I cover this photoresistor, my numbers go down. If I uncover my photoresistor, the numbers go up in our serial monitor. And if I shine light on to our photoresistor, the numbers get even higher. So that's good. That means we're getting data. And that is all that we need to do for the very basics of our Arduino setup. So we can close that. We don't need to worry about that for now. If I was using a different sensor, I would be printing the data from that sensor to the serial port. And now what we need to do is we need to work with P5. So I just have a little example sketch that's pulled from the P5 serial GitHub, and all of this will be, there's links to the GitHub and the source material in the sketch, and the sketch will be linked in the description of this video. So go ahead and take a look. But before we are able to run this, you can see if I run it, it's not going to give us anything because the browser, JavaScript in the browser, cannot access the serial ports of your computer for security reasons. If you could go to any website and it could take control of the physical hardware of your device, that would generally not be a safe or wise way for things to be organized. So what we need to do is we need to download another program that's going to act as an intermediary. We're going to specifically download a JavaScript app, a node.js based, I think, JavaScript app from the creators of the P5 serial library called P5 Serial Control. So this link is also linked in the comments of the sketch. So once we get there, we'll go to the newest release, and we'll select the zip that is formatted for whatever our operating system is. So Darwin is like for Mac, Linux is for Linux, Win32 is for Windows. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to click this one right here, and it will download into my downloads folder. And once it finishes, I can just use my archiving tool to unzip it, and now I have a folder here that has my application in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to drag this folder into my applications. Actually, no. I'm going to put it into my documents. So now if I open this up, I'm going to see a few files. The one that we want is this p5.serialcontrol.app. I have my file extension shown. You might not see that .app. So if I double click this, it's going to yell at me. It's going to say, who is this made by? So what we need to do is I need to open up my system preferences. The process will be different if you're on a PC, but then I'm going to go to security and privacy. And right here, now it's going to say, are you sure? And so the developers of this are trustworthy. So I'm going to say open anyway. And so now it has opened up. So this is great. I can close out of security and privacy. And now I have this JavaScript-based app that is running locally on my computer that has access both to the JavaScript that is happening in my browser, as well as the hardware that I have connected to my computer. So what we're going to do is I'm going to look at my ports that I have. I have a Bluetooth. Well, I have two Bluetooth ports. One is my earpiece. And the last one here, if I go back to my Arduino and look at what port I'm on, 143.401, 143.401, that is my port. So I'm going to select that port and I'm going to say open. And so if I enable the console here, now I can see these numbers coming through. Now there's something weird happening here. We want to make sure we're in ASCII mode because otherwise it's going to be trying to determine what the it's not going to understand the format of the data that's coming through the way that we're serial printing in our Arduino example that we're using. So we'll do this. And now I'm going to move my hand around on here, and we should see the numbers change just as we did before. So that's great. Now we are ready to go. Oh, and there's even some starter code here. So this is basically the same as what's going on in my editor here, except for there's more comments in this one. And I pulled, like I said, I pulled this straight from the P5 serial GitHub. So there's a lot of detail in here. So now, hopefully, we're all good to go. What we need to do now is we need to make sure that our P5 sketch is going to be looking in the right place. Like I said, remember there's more than one serial connection, most likely, that you're using at any one time. So we want to make sure that this, where we're saying serial open, line 21 of the code that is in the P5.js online editor, that's linked in the description. We have to change this to match up to what we see here. So I can just change this last bit, 143.401, and all the rest matches up. So now let's run it and see what we got. So I'll move this over. And so if we go down, there's a lot of various callback functions in here that are all commented. Go ahead and read those. And there's a list of available methods that you can do in P5 to deal with the data coming through. But what we want to do is we'll just look right here in the draw function. So in the draw function, now we see a number repeating or updating every time the draw function loops. So if I move my hand over this, we are seeing the changes that are caused. Oh, sorry, I'll switch my camera around. If I move my hand here, we can see the data updating with my blocking the light of this photoresistor. So now let's use this in maybe a more interesting way than with just displaying the number. What we can do, there's this other method of doing it where we can use one of those methods, the serial.read method, to go and grab data. But let's try something else. We'll comment this line out and we'll say something like, let's see if it is the right data type for us. We'll map it. We'll map the latest data. And the range of that data, because it's from an analog read on the Arduino, is 10.0 through 10.23. If you're using a different sensor, such as the ultrasonic rangefinder, that is going to be a different input range, most likely. And we'll map this from 10 to 200. And so that will be our the size of our ellipse, and we'll just put it right in the middle of the screen. And let's see if that gives us something. All right. So now when I cover the LED, cover the photoresistor, the size of our ellipse changes. And so I could make this control color. I could make it control like a camera in a 3D environment. I could have it control audio oscillators. Anything that P5 can do with a variable, we can now control with an Arduino through the serial connection. All right. Happy serial communicating.